Hey guys, Chris here. Today we're going to be making what's known as a sugar wash or Kilju, or I don't really know what else people call it. Not Kilju like I'm going to kill you, but like Kilju. It's basically sugar wine. Simple as that. 4 ingredients really. You got your water, your sugar, your yeast, and the optional 4th ingredient is yeast nutrient. I would really recommend this because if you get into this hobby, you'll realize that for yeast to survive, they need to have a good colony. And to have a good colony, they need nutrients. And if you think about it, there's really no nutrients in just sugar and water. So that's why I use this stuff. So first step that I need to do is mix up this 10-pound bag of sugar with some hot water. Now, why 10 pounds? Oh, this is spilling everywhere. I went with 10 pounds because I'm glad I put this towel on the floor. Because you generally want to do about 2 pounds of fermentable sugar per gallon of water. And this is perfect, obviously, because 10 divided by 10 divided by 5 is 2. So you have perfectly 2 gallons of sugar per gallon. 2 pounds per sugar. 2 pounds of sugar per gallon. Now, thinking about this, I probably should have prepared this a little bit better, but I'm gonna be back in a second when I get some hot water in here. Alright, so right here I got my steaming hot sugar thing going. And I got this handy dandy Tamarai premium soy sauce paddle that I'm going to use to stir it up with. Now this might take a little bit, but hopefully not, because I basically just put some scalding hot bath water in here, which hopefully will dissolve this up pretty quickly. I did sanitize all my equipment before. Some of it's actively sanitizing in my my X brewing bucket. Call it my X brewing bucket because I did 5 gallons of a little bit more complicated sugar wash. I don't even know if you could consider it that, that point, because what I had in that one was water, sugar, 2 huge diced apples, the juice of 4 lemons, which, thinking back on it, I should have done half of that. Oh yeah, that's the other ingredient in here is lemon juice. Why am I putting lemon juice in a neutral, I guess not neutral spirit, because if this was distilled, it would be a spirit, but I do plan to distill it. So why am I putting it in a future distilled spirit? It's not for flavor. I mean, this amount of lemon juice, half a drinking cup, that's nothing in terms of flavor in a batch of 5 gallons. I'm doing it to lower the pH because yeast, not only do they thrive a little bit more, and pH is like under 7. You don't want to go too low or they're gonna have kind of a hard time fermenting, but you want to have the pH low so that other microbes can't really build themselves up. And I mean, not all microbes are bad, but you want the yeast to be the dominant culture, if that makes sense. You know, it's like I don't know, you just want it to be the thing that's primarily going in there. And I am so surprised as to how quickly this sugar is is being dissolved. I actually thought I would be having to make small talk with you guys for 15 minutes, but this is almost fully dissolved. You can tell because I'm poking the bottom of it and I'm not hearing any crunching. But yeah, that's why I use lemon juice. And last time, you know, I took some advice from a guy who said you can use citric acid or you can use the juice of half a lemon per gallon. And in my spazzy ADHD mind, I kind of misinterpreted that information, and that I did 1 lemon per gallon. And the end product, it wasn't bad. I mean, it kind of sucked, but it really didn't. It's like it finished at about maybe 16% and it had kind of a strong apple flavor to it. And I'm surprised because to make apple cider, you need a lot more than 2 apples. But I guess, I don't know. It came out very appley. But, and there were lots of little lemon floaties because I didn't strain the lemon. You'd think to strain the lemon. I have it strained this time and I'm going to double strain it only because it looked really gross with a bunch of little citrus floaties. You guys know what citrus pods look like. You know, you bite into it and it goes, you know, squirts in your eye or whatever. But this is going to be a little different. So I pretty much have my pure sugar water like done here, and I'm just about ready to pour it in. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I'm really nervous to do this for some reason, but I got to do it at some point. So we'll go back over here, get all that sugar off of it. I again sanitized all my equipment, so I really won't. Oh, this is stuck. This is sticky. Okay, here it goes. Oh yeah, it's a nice brownish tan color kind of. And how far up did we get here? We got up to about 2 gallons. So what do we need? We need 3 more gallons of cold water because I want to try to get this down to a nice temperature. And what is it right now? I mean, I'm curious actually. Where's my thermometer here? There it is. Just sanitize it first. Let's see what we got to get this down to. So, oh my gosh, wow. It's climbing, 100 and climbing. 101, 102, 103, 104. So I'm going to guess this is right at around 105 degrees. And I could pitch the yeast at that temperature, but obviously I still have to fill it up with more water regardless. So I'm going to go get that. And it might take a little bit, but I'll just cut that part out because it's just going to be me running up and downstairs to get, you know, some water in this big old bucket. So I'll see you guys in just a second. All right, so this should be just enough water here to get it up to 5 gallons. Looks good to me. All right, so what do we do now? Good question. I think what I'm gonna do is, what am I gonna do? Oh yeah, I'll dump this lemon juice in. So that should be enough just to kind of, you know, stabilize the pH a little bit. And now what I'm gonna do is mix up my yeast nutrient. I just dropped my little thing here. I'm gonna get this thing as dry as you can. This smells like a worse version of the home and or the garden section at like Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. So what does this say? This has half a teaspoon per US gallon. So what do we need to add here? Half times. So we need to add 2.5. You know, I'm going to use my full ass teaspoon one. Why use a quarter teaspoon? It's going to take me forever. So yeah, half a teaspoon per gallon. So yeah, 2.5 teaspoons. So here is, or I know what I'm doing. Hold on. I'm just gonna scoop a little of this so I can mix it up easier, because this stuff tends to clump a lot. So I don't really want to use a heaping tablespoon, but teaspoon or tablespoon? Okay, teaspoon. And 1/2 of this. It's a little more than 1/2. Should be all right. All right, and then I'll mix that clumpy mess up. And I will dump it on in there. And I was very happily delighted to find out that this bucket is not 5 gallons, but 6. I guess technically 7 up to the brim, but if I can handle up to a 6.5 gallon batch, that's awesome, because that's actually what most turbo yeast packets are sold for, is 6 or 6.5 gallon batches. So I should probably sanitize my hands real quick. This acid-based sanitizer, Star San, wonderful stuff. Highly would recommend if you are looking to sanitize your brewing equipment and or anything, actually. It's a very good cleaner, acid-based. This stuff is almost stirred up, this nutrient here. What was I talking about? I talked about lemons, oh yeah, this bucket. Yeah, so it's a nice bucket, you know, and it was cheap, because I used to order all my brewing crap online, but recently I found a little brew shop right off, for any of you guys around here, it's Route 19, kind of by the airport in Schaumburg, by, you know, like Pilot Pizza and all that, you know, that stuff over there. Great little place, you know, really nice people inside, very helpful, but yeah. So I'm gonna dump this all in because it looks like it broke up pretty well. That's just what I was aiming to do. Yep, pretty good. I'm gonna stir all this in, just give it a nice little stir. And another thing I'm gonna have to do, I guess I don't have to do it, but it's really overall just encouraged to do, is what's called oxygenating. Did I already talk about oxygenating? I don't know if I talked about it yet, but if I didn't, it's basically you just want to introduce oxygen so that the yeast have an easier time, I guess, breeding or whatever they do. However, do not introduce oxygen like a day after it starts, because once the yeast start doing their thing, you don't want to add oxygen, because that, believe it or not, will slowly turn your sugar wash or your cider or whatever you're doing. It'll slowly turn that into vinegar. It introduces a kind of virus, if you will. Well, it is a virus. It's not. Oh, perfect. We're at an even 70. It's still dropping. 70, like 3 degrees. That's actually perfect for brewing. And you can brew at 60. You know, there are some yeast that can handle, you know, even the 50 Fahrenheit range. I like to keep it at like an even 70. That's just my preference. I'm sure it would work if I were to do even 80. I'm sure it would work if I did 60. But 70 is usually what the temperature of my room is, so I really don't have a choice anyway. Did I miss anything? No, I mean, yes. Yeast. You can use a multitude of yeasts for this. I chose Lalvin EC1118 because it has a pretty high alcohol tolerance, and that's not necessarily what I'm going for though. This is only going to finish at around 12% alcohol by volume. And it will go fully dry with this because this can handle up to about 18. And the reason you want to do it at 12 or around 12, why you want to do like 10 pounds of sugar in here, is because if you're distilling this, which I plan to do, it will come out better if you keep the alcohol by volume lower. And you'd think if you're distilling something, you would want it to be higher. You'd want your original product to be higher, because distilling is basically separating the water from the alcohol, concentrating the alcohol. So you'd think, oh, wouldn't it be easier if you made it at a higher percentage starting out? You know, add, I don't know, 1.5 times the amount of sugar, you know? You could do that, but it's just not gonna be as good in the end, apparently. That's what I hear. I've been researching this for the better part of 4 months now, researching and experimenting. But without further ado, let's get this yeast the hell in there. Oh yeah, but what I was talking about earlier, you can use different types. Hell, if you wanted to, you could use bread yeast. But bread yeast, in my opinion and experience, is kind of unreliable, because it's not unreliable, it's just not preferable. It really can only get up to about 8 to 10, maybe 10% if you're really lucky and you do everything correct. But it doesn't really handle alcohol very well, and the thing that really annoys me the most about it is, it smells like dry mac and cheese cheese mix. The thing that really bothers me about bread yeast is that when it finishes, or I guess not necessarily when it finishes, but in general, what it likes to do is, I should have oxygenated before. It's all right, I can do it after. What bread yeast likes to do is it likes to what is called flocculate, which means imagine if you, let's say you have sugar, you're putting some sugar on your strawberries. If you dump a bunch of crystal sugar, like I did like here, and you blow on it, it's not gonna go too far, right? However, if you put powdered sugar on it and you blow, it's gonna go everywhere. And that's what bread yeast does in water, or in, I guess, alcohol. It tends to not form a tight yeast cake. Whereas yeast like EC1118 or K1V1116 tend to stick to the bottom well. So when you're done and ready to get this into another container, because you obviously will need to do that, it won't be as difficult. Now, where is my, there it is, my handy little turkey baster thing that I use to oxygenate and or get things into my hydrometer reading test tube. So this is a fun part. You just stick it in and make it fart, you know? Just get some air in there, you know? But yeah, that's just why I tend to prefer those yeast. And they're not even expensive. I used to think like, oh, I hear people talking about using EC1118 and K1V1116. Oh my gosh, they must be so expensive. It's $1 per packet at your brew shop. It's literally about double what you would pay for bread yeast. You pay about 50 cents a packet for bread yeast. Just do yourself a favor and get some brewing yeast, because in the end it's going to make a better product, B, it'll have a higher alcohol by volume if that's what you're going for. I know not everyone's going for that. I'm not really going for it either. I could have very easily just used like a wine yeast with this, but I chose EC1118 because To be honest, I'm sort of trying to get rid of it. Because originally, when you're young in this hobby, and I still am too, but when you're really, really young and you're asking, you know, you make your first batch and it's just like, you don't like it and you go, you know, asking for help, people are going to recommend using brewing yeast. And I got endless recommendations for using yeast 1118, so I just assumed that that's the best kind of yeast ever, you know? But apparently, it's really only useful if, I mean, you can use it and stuff, but what it tends to do is strip flavor. But it does have properties that other yeasts don't. Like, for example, it can unstick a brew, which means, like, if you're brewing something and it's not fermenting, you just pour some EC 1118 in there and it should start up again. Assuming, you know, it's still a healthy brew. There's no mold or anything in there. EC 1118 is very aggressive as well. It tends to ferment anything too. You know, you can, when people try out really strange brews, 9 times out of 10 they're using EC 1118. So it's not necessarily like a universal yeast, but it's good for if you want, for like specific purposes. But I didn't know that, so I bought a bunch of it. And now I'm trying out different yeast. So I think I'm going to start using K1V1116, which is very comparable to EC 1118, but it has a better flavor profile apparently, or it can create better flavor profiles, I should say. And it's a little less aggressive, but overall makes a little bit better product. But my point is, there's no point in using any kind of like wine yeast or anything with Kilju or sugar wash, because what flavor do you have to begin with? You know, you have sugar, but it's going to get eaten up anyway, so you're not going to taste the sugar in the end. All the sugar is going to be converted to alcohol. There's no flavor in water. I mean, and there's such a minuscule amount of lemon in there that you wouldn't get the lemon flavor. So that's why I tend to use EC 1118 with sugar wash, because there's not a lot of flavor to begin with, and EC 1118 tends to strip flavor, so it's like a match made in heaven, you know what I mean? And it will finish your sugar wash dry if you're sticking to the 10 pounds per 5 gallons, because EC 1118 starts having trouble at around 14 or maybe like 15%. If you don't take certain steps, it can't really get past like 14 or 15. You need to do what's called step feeding, which is like, so it's like working out, you know? You wouldn't start bench pressing 200 pounds. You'd start maybe even just with the bar, or, you know, a few pounds on each side, you know what I mean? And that's what you do with brewing too, you know? You wouldn't dump all the sugar to the point where you could get like an 18% alcohol by volume product. To get to that, you would have to work your way up. You'd have to keep adding sugar incrementally. And EC 1118 can handle that, but it needs to be done over time, and you can't just do it all at once. But it will handle something that's only going up to 12%, because that's a very easy amount for this powerful yeast to chew through. And what else was I going to say about yeast? Yeah, I've got like 3 packs of this left, and I plan to make more sugar wash if I can dilute this stuff properly. I still need some tools, you know? I need like a hot plate, a colander, and some ice. That might be a different video, but actually maybe not, because technically it's illegal. So maybe I shouldn't show myself doing it. As a matter of fact, I probably shouldn't be showing myself doing this either, but I could not give less of a shit, honestly. So, this video will be uploaded anyway. So, as I'm coming to the tail end of my oxygenation here, I think what I'm gonna do next is get this thing going. I mean, it's probably already going, but oh no, not really. I mean, it probably hasn't done much yet. But I'm going to sanitize the bottom of my bucket lid here. if I could get the airlock off. I took it off so I could take a picture of this. Or I put it on so I could take a nice picture. But what I'm going to do is, of course, spray it with good old Star San in my little spray bottle here. Oh, there's a hair on it. My hair. Why do they keep coming back? There we go. Get out of here. Okay, that should be good. Now, the tough part is going to be putting this on, because the dude at the brew shop, you know, I was in the market for a new bucket. So he was like, you know, I was picking out a bucket. He's like, oh, yeah, this sticks, by the way. You're going to have to use some force to get it on. I'm like, yeah, you're bullshitting me, dude. But I got home. I tried to put it on. It's hard. It is hard to get on. But I'll give it a try. Actually, I did it a couple times, so maybe I kind of loosened it out, but it's still really sealed on there. Like you can practically lift the bucket by the lid. And that's not something that this bucket right here could do, this crappy little Lowe's bucket. It's just now my sanitizer bucket. But gotta make sure that this is on nice and tight, and it sounds, well, it looks like it is. Oh yeah, that's sealed all right. So now what I'm gonna do is fill up my airlock. I'm gonna give it a nice little clean run first. Yeah, but I'm gonna fill up this airlock with sanitizer. And the reason I fill it up with, or not sanitizer, you know, Star San. The reason I fill it up with that as opposed to like normal water is because this, if you get normal water in your brew, goes for anything, not just sugar wash, but if you get normal water in your brew, and God forbid your brew is colder than the outside temperature, it will reverse, the pressure will reverse in your airlock. So instead of it pumping out this way, it'll go back down. And you don't know what's in that water. So 19 times out of 20, you're gonna be fine. But I personally would just wanna go the extra little step to sanitize my airlock, or to keep a sanitized airlock. Because, to be honest, I don't want this brew to go bad. This is kind of an experiment for me, doing like a legit sugar wash instead of a weird apple version. So I don't want this to go bad. But yeah, so that's why you do that, is so that it doesn't get your brew infected if reverse pressure happens in the airlock. So simple as that. But yeah, this is it. This is pretty much it. It's that simple. You can practically, well, you can't buy all these ingredients, but I mean, if you want to do this on a small scale, you buy your gallon of water at the store. Do not use distilled, do not use mineral water. Use spring water. I found this out the hard way. All the minerals inhibit fermentation. They don't like yeast, and yeast doesn't like them. So use spring water. Or do it like me, just use tap water in a big ass 6-gallon bucket. And, which is, again, this is cheap stuff. I mean, the only hard thing for you might be might be finding it. I got lucky. There's a brew shop within 5 miles, where I live. But everyone's different. Everyone's case is different. So, but yeah, just keep yourself sanitized. That's my point that I'm trying to make right here. And so I'm gonna let this sit for about a month. I'm gonna distill it. I'm gonna give it to my friends. And if it turns out good, I might even do this again. But this is a bit of a longer video, but this is kind of a bigger tutorial. So anyway, I will see you guys in the next video.